Hello and welcome to this video on how to add liabilities into Curo. A liability is something a person or company owes, usually a sum of money. In general, a liability is an obligation between one party and another not yet paid in full for their money, goods or services. Common liabilities you are likely to experience include mortgages and loans. In this video, we will add a liability to a household account. To begin, within Curo, at the top of the screen, in the main ribbon, navigate to Workplace, Accounts, and open your desired account. Next, click on the drop-down arrow next to the name of the account that you're viewing. And in the menu that has now appeared, under the section Financial Planning, select Liabilities. This will display the liability overview of the account. If this is your first time adding a liability, then this area will likely be empty and not contain any records. But in approximately the middle of the screen, under the View title, click on Add New Liability. This will open the Quick Create form for adding a liability. In the left-hand column, we will record the ownership details. The first field, lender type, is preset to provider. However, you can amend this to account, contact, or scheme if necessary. Underneath, you can use the lookup icon to link the lender or provider and the product type for this liability. If your desired record doesn't appear in the initial drop-down list, you can conduct a search via the Look Up More Records feature. Next, you need to state the ownership of the liability, be it single, joint, account-owned, or scheme-owned. The associated account will already be pre-filled. Underneath, link the relevant contact from the household. The borrowers field is automatically filled in as you populate the contacts field. The client-friendly name is free entry for you to manually enter if required. This leaves you to choose the liability reason and category from the lists provided. And finally, the advisor field should also be pre-filled, much like the account. However, this is provided that the same field is also populated on the contact's account record. In the middle column, you will log the loan status and amount for the liability. The first field is mandatory, and for you to log the current status of the liability from the drop-down list available. Next, you have a free entry field to enter the account number and log the commencement date if known. Finally, there is a tick box to state if this is a new piece of business. But please be aware that this button should not be ticked if you're simply adding an existing liability into Curo. In the second half of the column, use the tick box to state if you want this liability to show advances. If you tick yes, this will remove the total advances field underneath, as well as the term and redemption date fields in the right-hand column. Please note, once your liability is saved in Curo, you will need to enter the full record to add these details. The fields Total Advanced and Current Debt are free entry for you to enter the appropriate values. And to finish, simply enter the date that the current date is accurate of. In the right-hand column, you will log the repayment details of the liability. The first field is a free entry for you to enter the value being repaid. Underneath, the currency field is preset to British pounds, and the frequency is preset to monthly, but you can change either of these manually if necessary. As mentioned previously, if you have not ticked the Show Advances box in the middle column, you will now be able to add and enter the term in years for the liability as well as the redemption date. If they're not available, once you have saved this liability, enter the full record and you can add this information from here. To finish, enter the interest rate for the liability. Skipping ahead, once you've filled in the necessary details for your liability, select the Save button in the bottom right corner of the Quick Create form. This will take you back to the liability overview for the account, where from here you can see that the liability record has now been generated. You can now enter the full record by double-clicking on it at any time, and once open you will see that there is a business process flow available to complete. This can be used to add further details that you may find out after adding the initial details of the liability. Alongside this, if you click on the list icon beside the liability title at the top of the screen, select Security and Related Records to open that section. From here you should see that records have been automatically added based on how you add your data into Curo, starting with the planning objective, moving on to requirements, etc. So it may be on a very rare occasion, but just so you know, you can link records from here if necessary. At this stage, we have saved the liability record and returned to the Contacts account page. From here, near the top of the screen, click on the list icon to the right hand side of the account name and select Household Details. In this section, you'll be able to view the total value of liabilities against the account under the title Household Net Worth. You can also view the liability value for an individual by the same means of navigation on a contact record, but by selecting the Estate section from the list provided. And there we have it. So I hope that this video has been of some help to you in understanding how to add a liability into Curo. If you have any further queries, please feel free to contact our support desk on 0800 032 3774 or via email at support@timeforadvice.co.uk.